Okay, so for today's activity, you're going to be matching these problems to the same answers. So on each card, you either have an addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division problem with scientific notation, and you are going to be solving that problem, typing the answer in the little box on the card, and then once you finish figuring out the answers to all the problems, you're going to match up the answer on the card that's kind of this pinky orange color to the same answer over on one of these blue cards. Okay, so we're going to go through two of them together. So I have taken card number 1 and card A and kind of worked them out as best I could digitally. So for this card number 1, we have 5.2 times 10 to the 4th plus 4 times 10 to the 2nd. So remember, when you're adding or subtracting, you need to make sure that your powers or your exponents are the same. So that might mean you need to adjust one of the or the other of the addends in the equation. So I decided to take 5.2 times 10 to the 4th and turn it into 520 times 10 to the 2nd so that I had the same power as the other part of the equation, 4 times 10 to the 2nd. Now you could have adjusted it so that they both were times 10 to the 4th. It's just kind of up to you and whatever you prefer. So because I moved the decimal 2 places to the right, or I multiplied this by 100, I then have to compensate for that by lowering the exponent. So they have an inverse relationship. So I made this number from 5.2 to 520, I made it larger. That means I have to make this one smaller by 2 powers of 10. So once I did that, then I just add 4 to 520. I get 524 times 10 to the 2nd. So your power stays the same. That kind of makes it easy once you've adjusted it. However, the problem with this is that it's not in scientific notation yet. So we have to take it from 524 times 10 to the 2nd into scientific notation, which means that this first factor has to be greater than 1 and less than 10. So that would be your final answer, 5.24 times 10 to the 4th power. So I'm going to go back to our matching document, and I'm going to click on this box a couple times till I see a cursor. It's a double click. So our answer was 5.24 times, I'm just going to use the x, lowercase x, times 10 to the 4th. Right? Yes. Okay. So to make your exponent for this, since we're in Google Slides, I'm just going to tell you to use Shift-6, and it's going to give you this little arrow that tells you that the next thing you type is supposed to be in the power or the exponent position. So I'm going to write it like that. So 5.24 times 10 to the power of 4. Okay, so that's my final answer. So now you can see that the answer to that problem is on the card. So now ideally I want to find another one of these that has the same answer, 5.24 times 10 to the 4th power. We're going to look at card A together. So here's card A, 5.1 times 10 to the 5th times 7.5 times 10 to the negative 3. Be careful, that is a negative 3. Okay, so for multiplication and division, we don't have to adjust our powers. So that's kind of nice. We just kind of chunk it and take it piece by piece. So I'm going to take 5.1 and 7.5, and I'm going to multiply them. And I get 38.25. Yes, you can use a calculator for that. Absolutely. Then I'm going to take times 10 to the 5th and times 10 to the negative 3. And I'm going to multiply those. And this is something you will see later too when we work more with exponents. But when you multiply 10 to the 5th times 10 to the negative 3, you just add the powers. So it's 10 to the 5 plus negative 3, and 5 plus negative 3 is like 5 minus 3. So that's 10 to the 2nd power. Now we have to put this 38.25 with this 10 squared. So 38.25 times 10 to the second, or times 10 squared. However, this is not scientific notation because this first number is larger than 10. So we need to adjust it by moving our decimal point one space to the left, or dividing by 10. And since we've made this number smaller, that means we have to make our exponent 1 larger. So our final answer is 3.825 times 10 to the third. So we're going to go back to our matching document, and we are going to double click into the answer box, and it was 3.825 times 10, and then shift 6 to get that little arrow, times 10 to the third. Oops. There you go. Your answer is in there for this card. Now, obviously, A does not match with 1. But if it did, what you're going to do is you are going to then drag your card over so that, as best you can, get it to line up. There we go. Now, if these were matches, that means that these would have the same answers. You would put them together. Obviously, we can see that 1 and A do not match, so I need to undo that. Leave it over here until I find its match. So hopefully that helps you guys with how to navigate this activity.